I was laughing with my son at dinner when a text told me to leave, shouting out without a word. During dinner with my son, I got a text. Get up. Leave now. Don't say anything to your son. The restaurant was glowing with soft yellow lights, the kind that make everything look warmer than it really is. My son sat across from me, giggling at something silly on the kids' menu. A cartoon drawing that he insisted looked like me. His laughter was the kind that makes you forget the world is cruel. For a moment, I felt safe. Maybe even happy. Then my phone buzzed. It wasn't unusual. I always kept it face down on the table to avoid distractions, but something in my chest told me to look. My hand trembled before I even flipped it over, and when I saw the message, my stomach dropped so hard I thought I might vomit right there on the table. Get up. Leave now. Don't say anything to your son. That was it. No name. No explanation. Just a command. My first instinct was to laugh it off. Maybe some wrong number. But the words clung to me, heavy and suffocating. My smile froze on my face. My son was still talking, pointing at the silly drawing, completely oblivious. I forced a small laugh, my throat tight, my hands trembling under the table. Inside, I was unraveling. I scanned the restaurant, the couples leaning close over glasses of wine, the older man eating soup alone in the corner, the waitress laughing at some joke near the counter. Normal, ordinary, safe. But under that normality, I felt eyes. Someone was watching. I pressed the phone against my leg, trying to stop it from shaking. Should I tell my son? Should I stand up and run? My heart pounded so hard I thought people might hear it echoing through the room. He looked up at me, eyes wide and innocent. Mom, are you okay? I forced my lips into a smile that felt like glass cracking. Yeah, sweetheart, I'm fine. Just a silly text. But it wasn't silly. It was terrifying. Who would send something like that? And why now? I tried to breathe, but my chest felt too tight. My mind raced back to everything that had happened. The betrayals, the nights I'd cried alone, the way my ex-husband's voice still lingered like poison in the back of my head. Was this connected to him? He had said once, almost casually, "You'll never escape me." The message felt too specific, too sharp. Someone knew exactly where I was, exactly who I was with. My eyes darted again, over the families, over the waiters moving gracefully between tables. Every face suddenly seemed suspicious. That couple laughing too loudly, that man staring at his soup, even the teenage girl at the counter scrolling her phone. Any one of them could have sent it. The restaurant, once warm and safe, now felt like a trap. I held my son's hand across the table, my fingers cold. He squeezed back gently, still smiling, unaware that my world had just shifted into something dark and dangerous. I tried to swallow the fear, but it stuck in my throat like glass shards. I couldn't eat, couldn't laugh. Every second stretched longer, like the world had slowed down just to mock me. And then, in the middle of the noise and chatter, I felt it. That unmistakable heavy sensation of someone's eyes locked on me. I turned, scanning slowly, carefully, trying not to look obvious. And when my gaze brushed past a man at the far side of the room, I froze. Because he didn't look away. Not when I caught him staring, not when I shifted uncomfortably. He just sat there, eyes locked onto me like he already knew what was written on my phone. My skin prickled, my blood running cold. And then I realized someone wasn't just warning me, they were watching me. I tried to steady my breathing, but fear was already crawling up my throat like smoke. My son kept talking about school, about his drawing, about the dessert he wanted to order. His words floated around me like a distant echo. I nodded, smiled, even laughed in the right places, but inside, my mind was screaming. That man across the room? Was he the one? Or was I imagining it? His eyes didn't leave me. Not once. My pulse hammered so hard it made my vision blur for a second. I picked up my glass of water, pretending to sip, pretending everything was fine. But my hand shook so much the ice clinked against the glass. My son noticed. He tilted his head. "Mom, are you sure you're okay?" His little voice cut through me. He was innocent. Too innocent. He didn't deserve this storm. None of it. I forced another smile. "I'm fine, baby, just tired. Let's enjoy dinner, okay?" But my brain refused to rest. Memories came flooding back, uninvited. The way my marriage had collapsed like a house of cards. The coldness in my husband's voice when he admitted he didn't love me anymore. Or worse, the way he denied things even when the truth was right there, dripping from his lips like venom. "I never said that. You're crazy? Who would even want you?" The gaslighting, the humiliation, the empty bed I cried in for months while he slipped into someone else's arms. And then the custody battles. His threats still rang in my ears. "If you push me, I'll take him from you. You won't win." What if this was him? What if he wasn't bluffing? The text was too sharp, too personal. No scammer would write something like that. It was written by someone who knew me, who knew my son, who wanted to scare me into silence. I glanced at the door, calculating the distance. Could I leave without causing a scene? Could I walk my son out without him realizing something was wrong? But the problem wasn't the leaving. The problem was, who was waiting outside? My chest tightened. My fingers dug into my napkin until it tore. I looked at the man again. He was still watching, calm, steady, almost smug. Like he knew I was trapped. Panic surged, but I swallowed it down. I had to think. I had to be smart. I couldn't scare my son. The restaurant felt louder now, every laugh and clatter of silverware turning into noise that pressed against my skull. My mind kept looping back. Friends who had promised to stand by me only to vanish when things turned ugly. Family members who had whispered behind my back, calling me dramatic, ungrateful, crazy. I was alone then, and I felt alone now. But this time it wasn't just me at risk. My son was here. I reached for his hand again, squeezing tighter this time. He squeezed back, confused by my tension. His innocent eyes searched my face, but I couldn't explain. Not yet. My phone was still in my lap. I couldn't help but glance at it, praying it would stay silent. Maybe it had been a sick prank. Maybe nothing would happen. But deep down, I knew better. I felt it in the way my body tensed, in the way my instincts screamed. Whoever sent that text wasn't done, and I was right. Because just as I forced a laugh and lifted a fork to my mouth, the phone buzzed again. My heart dropped. I turned it over with a shaking hand, dread curling in my gut like fire. And that's when my phone buzzed again, this time with a detail that made my blood run cold. The screen lit up in my lap. My hand trembled so badly, I almost dropped the phone. "If you stay 5 more minutes, you'll regret it." My throat closed. The first message could have been dismissed, maybe even laughed off, but this was a direct threat. Specific, calculated. A countdown hanging over me and my son like a noose. I pressed the phone down against my thigh, hiding it from my son's curious eyes. My fork hovered in midair, untouched. My hand shook so violently I had to put it down. I felt sick. 5 minutes. What happens in 5 minutes? Does someone walk in? Does someone pull something from their coat? My stomach twisted. My eyes darted toward the man still staring at me across the room. My mind spun backward, clawing through old memories I had tried to bury. The night I found the hotel receipt in his jacket pocket, the sudden unexplained withdrawals from our joint account, the way he guarded his phone like it held state secrets. I remembered the night I couldn't sleep and logged into our shared online banking, transfer after transfer, money disappearing into an account I didn't recognize. Thousands. And when I confronted him, he smirked. "You really should mind your own business," he'd said. And then there were the whispered phone calls at midnight, the smell of perfume that wasn't mine, the lipstick smudge I noticed once, faint but undeniable, on the collar of his shirt. I had pieced the puzzle together slowly. The mistress, the money, the lies. But never like this. Never with my son sitting in front of me, laughter fading into confusion as he watched me unravel. Could this message be tied to all of that? To her? To them? 5 minutes. The restaurant, once warm and filled with harmless chatter, now felt like a stage where I was the unwilling star. Every light burned too bright. Every sound was too sharp. Even the clinking of silverware turned into a warning bell in my head. I scanned the tables one by one. The laughing couple. The old man with soup. The waitress balancing trays. The teenage girl scrolling her phone. My eyes flicked past each one, searching for danger, for recognition, for the reason my entire body screamed at me to run. And then I saw him again. The man across the room, still staring, his face calm, detached, almost curious, like a predator toying with prey. I forced myself not to look away too fast, not to give him the satisfaction of seeing my fear, but my heart was hammering so hard I felt it in my fingertips. Then, movement. Someone shifted into the chair across from him. For a second, their back was to me, hair falling over one shoulder, and then she leaned forward, her profile visible under the warm light. My entire body went cold, because I knew that face. I'd seen her once before, stepping out of a hotel lobby while my husband adjusted his shirt and avoided my calls. I'd seen her name buried in the email records he didn't mean for me to find. She was the mistress, and she was sitting with the man who had been staring at me. My chest tightened. My blood roared in my ears. The betrayal wasn't just in the past. It was alive, breathing, sitting 10 tables away, watching me like they were waiting for something to happen. And when I saw who they were sitting with, my stomach turned to stone. The sight of her sitting there, laughing softly with that man, was like being punched in the chest. My husband's mistress, here, in the same restaurant. Not by accident, not by coincidence. This wasn't random. This was planned. The texts weren't some sick prank. They were part of something bigger, a setup, a performance designed to trap me, to make me panic, to humiliate me. And suddenly I understood. This wasn't about love or even betrayal anymore. This was about control, about power, about proving I could still be cornered even when I thought I had escaped. My ex's voice rang in my head, dripping with cruelty. "You'll never escape me." My hands turned clammy. I couldn't let my son see me spiral. Not here, not now. I forced a deep breath and straightened my back, pretending nothing was wrong. My son was still busy folding his napkin into strange shapes, blissfully unaware of the storm raging just feet away. I caught the waiter's eye and lifted my hand slightly, signaling for the check. My movements were slow, deliberate, practiced. I smiled like any other customer, like a mother enjoying a normal evening with her child. Inside, my heart was tearing itself apart. I could feel eyes on me. From across the room, from the man who hadn't stopped staring, from her, the Mistress who had been the silent ghost in my marriage. Now she was flesh and blood, smirking over a glass of wine, as if she owned a piece of me. Number she didn't. I reached for the water, sipping it as calmly as I could, rehearsing my exit in my head. Stand up casually, take my son's hand, walk slowly toward the door, smile, smile, like nothing is wrong. Get out. Just get out. The betrayal burned in my chest like acid, but I couldn't let it consume me now. This wasn't the time for rage. This was survival. The waiter slid the bill onto the table with a polite smile. I nodded, fumbling slightly as I slipped my card inside. My son glanced up, his little face curious. "Are we leaving already, Mom?" I forced a gentle smile. "Yeah, sweetheart, we'll go soon." Every second felt like it stretched into eternity. My pulse pounded in my ears as I rehearsed the words I couldn't say. "Don't be scared. Just follow me. Don't look back." I was so close. The bill was gone, the payment made, the path almost clear. I reached across the table, my hand trembling as it brushed over my son's tiny fingers. He looked up at me, trusting, innocent. I whispered, "Come on, baby, let's go." And then, movement. A shadow stretched across the door. I froze. Someone was standing there. Not the waiter, not a stranger. A figure I recognized instantly. Tied to my past, tied to him. And just as I reached for my son's hand, another figure stood blocking the door. It took me less than a second to recognize the figure at the door. My ex's sister. Her arms were crossed, her lips curled into that smug half-smile I'd seen too many times before. The smile she wore when she lied for him in court, swearing he was a good man, that I was just bitter, unstable, dramatic. She had betrayed me once when it mattered most, and here she was again, standing like a gatekeeper, blocking my way out. For a moment, fear threatened to choke me. My son squeezed my hand, sensing my tension, his innocent eyes wide. The urge to cry, to scream, to run, it all surged at once. But then something unexpected happened. The fear broke, and in its place came clarity, cold, sharp, unshakable. I realized what this was, a performance, a setup meant to make me fold, to humiliate me in public, to prove I would always be under his shadow. But they had made one mistake. They underestimated me. I stood up, tall and steady, gripping my son's hand. The restaurant noise faded, conversation softening as eyes began to turn toward us. My phone burned hot in my palm. And before I could lose my nerve, I lifted it, pressing the screen to my chest so my voice carried. "These are the messages I just got," I said loudly enough for nearby tables to hear. My voice didn't tremble. Threats, warnings. Someone here thinks it's funny to scare me while I'm sitting with my son. The room went still. Every head turned. People craned their necks, eyes, shifting from me to the man across the room, then to the woman sitting with him, then to the sister at the door. The trap they'd built suddenly had a spotlight blazing over it. I held up the phone. "Get up. Leave now. Don't say anything to your son. And then this, if you stay 5 more minutes, you'll regret it." My words cut through the silence. Gasps rippled. A few people muttered. All eyes landed on the table where the mistress and the man sat frozen. My ex's sister's smugness faltered, just for a second. That second was mine. I straightened my shoulders, my son's small hand gripping mine tighter. "You wanted to scare me?" My voice shook, but not with fear, with fury, with strength. "You wanted to humiliate me? Congratulations. Everyone here can see exactly who you are." The man across the room finally looked away. The mistress's face burned red. The sister shifted at the door, suddenly less certain of her role as guard. I didn't wait for more. I turned, guiding my son past her. She didn't move to stop me. She couldn't. Not anymore. not with every eye in the restaurant watching, every whisper sharpening like knives. The air outside was cool against my burning skin. I inhaled deeply, the night air filling my lungs with freedom I hadn't felt in years. My son looked up at me, confused, but safe. I smiled down at him. A real smile this time, not the forced mask I'd been wearing all night. They thought they could break me. They thought I'd run scared, bow my head, slink away in shame. But instead I stood tall and walked out with my son.